Dan.
Oh, Dan, sorry.
And you should be good to go. Let me just make sure it's open too. Alright, that looks like a good.
I'd like to call to order this special meeting of the Board of Finance for Wednesday, October 18th. I stand by opening the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Public comment. We do have someone here for public comment.
Sure, just go ahead.
Yes, sir. You gotta just state your name and address, sir.
Absolutely. My name is Daniel Myers. I live at 16 Powderhorn Hill in Brookfield. I'm a Brookfield resident, a startup executive, and an engineer, and I'm here to talk about a unique opportunity for the town finances. 6 days ago, a massive gas pipeline explosion forced 10,000 people to evacuate a 4-mile radius around the pipeline. For those that don't know, Brookfield is home to 2 of the largest gas pipelines on the eastern seaboard, both larger than the one that exploded 6 days ago. We also have a compressor station and an interconnect which combined represent a major risk to Wiskinger Middle School and the adjacent residences. However, what if I told you that this unfortunate reality presents a unique opportunity? Just like the state of Alaska, Brookfield has the opportunity to completely flip the script and eliminate non-commercial taxes in favor of a residential dividend. How, you might wonder? The Iroquois pipeline is worth over $15.5 billion and is slated for expansion despite the bipartisan objections from the town and state at the time of its initial construction and its current expansion proposal. The expansion of this pipeline represents a $300 million investment by Iroquois Gas Pipeline Company. I urge the town of Brookfield to enact a special assessment, a special taxing district, or similar mechanisms on the Brookfield Gas Compressor Station, given its enormous economic value, burden on the town's air quality, and the risk to taxpayer-funded facilities like the town's only middle school. If the town charter precludes this today, consider changing it. The facility operator can easily afford a tax of $50 million a year, which would pay for the relocation of the town's only middle school and other municipal projects needed, as well as a fund for compensating residents in close proximity should a catastrophic or even a small event occur. Further, an additional $50 million a year tax should be preemptively put in place to deter expansion of this gas pipeline. This is a major opportunity for the town, and I hope you will consider this proposal despite its unconventional nature.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Interesting.
Thank you. I think they've already been in some talks with Iroquois. I know Steve had been in talks with Iroquois, so it's in our meeting, and hopefully the first selectwoman will look at it at some point. All right, moving on. Communications and correspondence. Approval of the previous minutes.
I make a motion to approve the September 20th, 2023 special meeting minutes.
Any discussion? Hearing none. So take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, we're on to the report of the first selectman. The first selectwoman is not in attendance tonight, so we will move on to the report of the finance director. The BOEs have a meeting tonight since we moved the meeting to accommodate our team. So we'll move on to Marcia, revenues and expenditures.
All right, and if you want to switch to the screen, that would be great. For the 22-23, the update and the audit update, they're one and the same, that there's 3 things that we're looking for you for tonight to complete the transfers. There was a bonded capital transfer last month that wasn't completed. There was, and I hadn't asked you for transfers of revenue and expenditures because I didn't want to do it twice, but now they're done. They're the same numbers that you had seen previously. We didn't make more adjustments after the audit. So those are, I'm asking for tonight. With respect to the audit, I have to write management's discussion and analysis. I did a lot of the analysis on why one's up and one's down. I just have to write it. If I had a day myself, I could probably get that done. And then the sign off by the auditors. And I know that they're going through it because she works on it on the weekends, and every Sunday I get an email from her that She had some changes to WPCA, which I don't do their books, so I don't care. But, and she had some changes to capital that I had forgotten to take something out of construction in progress. But that's where we stand on the audit. We're still hoping to have it done by October 31st. That it's not due till December 31st. That's just me being competitive. That, so that's everything for 22-23. And
So-
as I
Go ahead, sorry.
and as I said last meeting, that this is an anomaly, don't expect it next year. We didn't do bonding this year, and bonding takes an awful lot of time to do the offering statement. That's what caused us, I've got a great team, but next year there'll be a lot of hours for that I would anticipate.
So by done, you mean done, filed, signed?
I want to be the first one at the state.
Okay.
Yeah. And last year, the first one was November 1st or something, so that's why October 31st.
Do you have a bet with somebody or?
Pardon me?
Do you have a bet with somebody or?
No, just competing against myself.
There you go, okay.
Because I'm certainly, if I had a bet with Kevin, he's still not done with his 2022.
You would be winning.
I would be winning.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not gonna bet money on that one.
So then, last month, I wasn't here, but I watched, you mentioned that you'd like to present it at the December meeting. I think
So-
that if it's ready, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I just thought, and we could put some context to it, that would seem to be helpful that time, and it would be, we know that there'll be 2 new members, that it would be a good introduction. It's after they're done and before the budget season. So I'm hoping to get this done, get the capital budget package out so we can get that started. And then I'd like to flip to setting up a new budget format. We had talked about that last year, and then I had to delay it, so I would, so that it's like, we talked about Monroe and New Milford and Newtown, I think, were I have them listed someplace. But, so that's on my agenda to try and get done before December 31st. For the 23-24 budget update, there's some expenditures. You have a report, the budget to actual report. The intra-department transfers were approved by the Board of Selectmen. The inter-department transfers were not approved by the Board of Selectmen. They wanted some more information on the legal fees, and so they were going to have another meeting, an executive session after the 15th of the month, because that would give us time to get the September legal fees bills in. They're in now, so I would imagine.
So, before you go further on that, do we have enough money to cover the current legal fees incurred?
Oh, we haven't overexpended any line items. That, however, that what happens is, for example, for litigation, I switched them over a few years ago, so we're on a purchase order system. So if someone gives us starts a suit for zoning of some sort, we put in a $2,500 purchase order. And then we have to just keep adjusting it, because they're not gonna be $2,500, but that's our placeholder. So they could easily, we only, as of today, we only have $1,400 left in the litigation line after those encumbrances. And,
So there's still money in the budget right now. Currently, right now, we still have money to cover our encumbrances.
1,400
Okay, but let me walk
for
through this.
2023-24.
We're 3 months into the year.
We're 3 months in, yeah, that's what I was just like, we're 3
So-
months into the year.
We don't need to do any transfer as of now. There's still $1,400 in that account.
oh my goodness, that'll be used up.
Oh, no.
Oh, I know,
No.
but
Yeah.
we
No,
haven't exceeded
we
what was in
haven't
that line.
exceeded.
We haven't exceeded it.
So
And this is the
we-
1,400 before any transfers.
Correct. So
Yeah.
now, the purchase order system will not allow anyone to put a purchase order in for services at this point. Because it should say, hey, there's not enough money in this line account.
That
So,
is correct.
listening to the debate and listening to reading the paper today, we need to tighten our belt and be fiscally responsible. So why would we approve any interdepartment transfers within the first 3 months of the year? We're not managing the budgets. These are not being managed. Because 3 months into the year, we shouldn't be at 100% of the account. So there will be, from my opinion, there'll be no interdepartment transfers until we have full controls on all of these accounts, full explanations of why we expended all of this money, and full explanations of why we need more. Why would we appropriate this money to give an open checkbook to keep spending in this account? Right now, the account has a line limit of $1,400, correct?
Correct.
So why would we put more money into this account with an open checkbook to keep spending it down the road? Why do we have to do that?
I would say I would agree on some of, and on any, almost any other line. The concern I have on legal is we don't really have an option to not answer someone's complaint or not answer, not file the things timely. So although we have a purchase order system for the legal, it mostly just shows us what cases and how much it costs per case. And it's a little bit of the tail wagging the dog, because we can go to the attorney and say, what do you think we should set up for this? And he may say $8,000. And we get down to the end, and now we've gotten a bill that throws us over the $8,000. What new do you think we should set it up for? I would say Tara would be a better person to ask if all of these are necessary, if some of them can be stopped. For example, the blight. Is that us being assertive on blight, or is that us being defensive on blight? But
Okay.
the court case is,
So to take off of that, we can say no to the interdepartment transfers, and she would have to bring that to us before she could enter into a contract or a PO, the way the state statute reads. In other words, you overspend your plan on a budget. You can't enter a contract or a negotiation without having the approval of the Board of Finance. So she would have to bring that to us then, instead of an open checkbook. Right now, it's an open checkbook. She's gone through the budget. The budget is depleted in 3 months. We had an incident that we shot our own selves for a lot of money, it seems to appear. What did the Lone Star, where we had over $10,000 for the White Star?
the White Star.
The White Star incident, we're well over $10,000 and expecting more bills. That was an self-inflicted wound possibly, alleged. I mean, I don't know all the facts. So why would we open up the checkbook for these legal fees when we can say no to the interdepartmental transfers? And I believe the process is then, if she needs to overspend that account, she would have to go through the Board of Selectmen, and then it would have to come to us. So instead of an open checkbook, there would be 2 sets of checks and balances. So that's not saying we would not defend what was needed to be defended. That's saying that we would put, the budget has been spent. The budget allotted has been spent in the first 3 months. So that would give the checks and balances to the Board of Selectmen, which obviously they had concerns on this as well because they didn't approve it in their meeting. And then it would allow us at the Board of Finance to have the final check and balance.
My other question is, what line items 3 months in are going to be underspent that much that we can start taking interdepartmental funds from? And this isn't.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, because I just, one
So-
of these things just popped out at me already.
So this one, I did have some transfers in there that, for example, the biggest thing that's underspent is the fire marshal assistant. That there's been a vacancy and it's been expected to be vacant for 6 months. And so that's the bulk of where I got the legal fees from.
However, go ahead.
No, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No,
We haven't
continue,
hired-
continue.
No, but no, let's go back to, again, the pressure and the things going around this town right now is we gotta control the debt, we gotta pay down the debt. Why wouldn't we be utilizing this extra money to put forward into our debt reduction plan and put it forth at the end where we utilize the tools of this extra money to work towards paying down our debt bubble so we can get in a police station, we can get in a possible library or whatever? Why would we not squander this money, but use this money so early in this budget to
And it's more, it's, I mean, it's in addition to the rhetoric that's going on in town, which is, you know, that's to be expected. It's where you started, managing of all these budgets 3 months in. If we're gonna do any, I would not be willing to approve anything unless I had a breakdown of how did we set the number to begin with, what was the expected number in use case? And then what's been spent against it, and why, so litigation, we set a number of X. Here's what we spent that was towards that, here's what was unexpected, here's what was discretionary, here's what was all of that, you know, specific line by line to.
We did reduce it, in fairness,
I agree.
we did
I
reduce
agree.
it, so I mean, transparency, I
Yeah,
want
we were-
transparency at this table. But we
Yeah.
based it on prior years as well, and best estimates.
Right.
We were also.
And that wasn't, I mean, litigation, I just used that one because it's the first
No,
one.
I'm just wanna tell you, that's a
Any-
section
any-
we did reduce, I mean, so you wanna do transparency.
Yeah.
However, we didn't manage the budget, we're 3 months in.
Yeah.
And even if the amount of money that we took out isn't covering where
Right.
we're going.
Yep.
We'd be out of money in 5 months. So
So-
this problem just came a couple months earlier.
And I can get you some of that detail for the accounting part of it, that because already have a schedule that I've shared with Tara that shows, here's each case, here's how much we've spent on each case, here's how much the attorney is telling us right now that they expect that we will spend. So I can give that part. How much of it, if any of it could be delayed or not delayed, that I don't have that
Yep.
information.
Okay, and this isn't us micromanaging operations.
It's not.
This is us understanding the controls in place for expenses. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I have to say, the controls on this one are tough,
Yeah.
just because we can't, finance can't say, we're not increasing that purchase order, so don't respond and we'll lose the lawsuit. Our hands are kind of tied on
Yep.
that part.
When we were doing the budget, though, I remember we were taking things down in certain areas to be able to afford certain positions that we were trying to make work that night.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's,
Agreed.
yeah. So I guess
Okay.
it would have to come.
Just for us to look at, can we get a copy of all the legal bills for the last 3 months or for the fiscal year? Just so we can look and see and maybe understand
Yeah, and I
a
can
little
get you
bit
that
more of
schedule,
what's
too.
going on. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'd love to see the details behind the legal bills, just to get a feel for why there's more money needed.
And before you know it, we'll be setting that number again, so we want to get it right.
Yeah, good point.
All right, Marcia, let's continue on, please.
All right, I just want to write that down before I forget. So litigation, that's the one that's a tough one. Blight, I don't know if that's us being the aggressor and we could delay that or not. Tara would know that, I didn't realize she wasn't gonna be here tonight. But based on what they've asked us for and the estimates from the attorney for when we go to do the purchase orders, that's how we know we're 15,000 short. That it had been more than that, it had been 25,000, and the attorney said, well, he could probably reduce it, and so that's why we're 15 this time. Labor legal, we've spent 42% of the budget, so legal is really our biggest concern so far this year.
Why is labor legal up though? I mean, what caused that?
There's been some problems in one of the departments that they're trying to resolve.
Okay. I mean, that seems out of character,
It does.
to be honest
I've
with you.
never had to bring that up now. But
I don't think I've
we
ever
did
heard
do
you
a
bring it up.
transfer, an intra-fund transfer, to take some out of pension and put it into labor legal.
Legal.
From
pen-
pension legal to labor legal, yeah.
See, this is why I don't wanna get into this open checkbook thing, that we set budgets and line items, and we're now, and I know the charter allows for it, but I don't wanna open that door up for further, hey, we just gonna move here and there and everything else. I think interdepartment transfers 3 months into this, a quarter in, is unacceptable.
And the board, the two other selectmen had thought the same thing, and that's why they asked it to be tabled, so none of this is up for you to
Seems like a
approve.
common theme.
Yeah, it does. none of this is up for asking you to approve tonight because it didn't go through the selectmen yet.
Perfect.
I'm
Thank
just
you.
trying to give you the heads up on what we know is out there.
Well, then I think the heads up is all around.
IT costs, there's a firewall that, now it's awkward with Dan sitting behind me, I think I have this worded right. That there's some updated prices for the firewall, plus they want software, the new software requires a hardware update to go with it, so there was, I think, $2,500 there. There's some just with the communication on the telephone that our prior land use director that created the budget wanted to divide every department out, and our, it's, with the cell phone bill, to make copies, 3 copies of it, and have each one approve a piece of it, it's just not, it's not efficient, and so they wanted to move it back. That the one that set the budget isn't here, and this new land use director is fine with that. And then employee changes, the tax office, there's an employee change that created a savings. I thought there was gonna be an increase, they said the first of the year. I was thinking fiscal year, they were thinking calendar year. Building, non-union wages, the building inspector, department head retired and had a large vacation payout, and then there was an overlap in employees with the new person starting before the old person left. Fire marshal assistant, that was a big savings we just talked about. And then the highway department, there was a vacation payout, but it's been offset with vacancies. A lot of it has been offset with vacancies, but not all.
So what's a vacation payout?
When they leave, they get paid their vacation.
So we had an employee leave.
Yes, several employees leave.
Thank you.
So that is what's on the report. What is not on the report that we're watching, we gotta keep watching the legal, that building sporadic wages, that you had put 5,500 in the budget, there was a lot of discussion of that would be about 5 hours a week, and they hired someone at 12 hours a week. And they said they would come back to you and ask for more money. I let them know that they're running out. They have approximately 4 weeks left. Manage it appropriately, and don't overspend.
As we discussed, that budget was given and managed to 5 hours a week. It was chosen to be managed to 12 hours a week. The money's gone. The money's gone. I mean, we gave a budget.
It failed.
Yeah.
Very true.
And we agreed to 5 hours per week, and the choice of the management team was to do 12 hours a week. We're not, the interdepartment, again,
Yeah. I'm
tighten
just
our
saying-
belts, fiscal responsibility.
I'm
the
just saying,
theme.
that's why that's why we've gone through the budget, and we will have it
That's
5
fine.
months.
I'm just-
That,
We shouldn't be having these problems 3 months into a budget. We really shouldn't be having these issues.
Yep. Registrars, there's a lot of things going on in the registrar's office. As of today, they've spent 64% of their deputies and assistants' budget. We divided that out this year because they just were having a hard time controlling that and monitoring that. For example, in 2018, the deputies and assistant, the total hours that they worked for the year were less than 300 hours. Last year, the total hours that deputies and assistants worked is over 1,300 hours. They haven't been able to give me a reason for why they're working more, but it's 4.5 times the hours that they did a few years back. So they're very much through their budget. I have talked to them repeatedly this year, last year. I can't stop them. That it's, as a finance director, I can tell them that you run out of money on December 2nd if you have the average number of hours, and I've done that. I can't make them listen to me.
It's not your job, I mean, that's the point, it's
No.
not.
No,
Right.
that,
Yeah.
I'm just the finance director. I've talked to
Yeah.
them about personally liable. I don't know what else to do. So that's The
What do you
current-
mean, what else to do? Again, why isn't this in the selectmen's hands and in the board
I've-
of selectmen's hands?
I've copied her and she may be doing something. I'm
Then we don't
not-
have to worry about it. December 2nd comes, the money runs out.
That's,
I mean, again, this is a simple process.
The registrars report to the parties or to the town?
as I understand it, the registrars report to the party, but these are their assistants and their employees.
Okay.
So they would be HR and first selectmen. I double checked with a former registrar to see who would, hires and fires, but it's through the town.
Okay.
That,
Again, I don't even think this is a Board of Finance issue. The Board of Finance issued a budget and it should be adhered to. It should, if it's not managed, that's,
Or if there's a need that was unanticipated, we got but 4.5 times
But we
is
need
crazy.
somebody here to explain that to
Right,
us.
exactly.
Correct, and if you're not getting the answer and you can't explain it to us, then
There-
you're none.
There are some needs that are coming up that are not reflected because the time hasn't been spent yet. They were selected by the state for an audit of their records.
so that's
That's a fair,
unexpected.
unexpected,
The
Yep.
way that audit works is you audit yourself. You just recount. It's a little shaky to me, but.
That should be free.
There is, so that will require more time, but that's going forward and they'll ask us for the money. I've asked them how much. They have to, the records have to be updated to comply with the Connecticut voter registration system. I guess that's been in place since 2015. That's computerized records. I think our records are computerized, so I don't know, I can't quite get from them what do we have to do? Why haven't, what's in the computer now and what do we have to do? But the deadline to comply with that is June 30th, 2024. They didn't realize the deadline when they did their budget. They haven't started updating anything and they won't start till January 1st. So they're gonna be looking for more money for that. And then early voting, we purposely took it out of the budget. They're still thinking of a plan. They're still working out with the state what's happening. But those three things are things that I know specifically why they need more hours.
But
And-
we talked about the early voting, we knew
Yeah,
that
we
was,
knew that could be coming.
Correct.
yeah,
Fair enough, I agree.
we knew that.
And they just keep telling me their budget isn't any good, and I can't get from them what's wrong with it. I have done my own analysis of their budget. I've gone back 6 years on their actual, and I've just got from him yesterday a list of all the different things. I'm just trying to take the poll workers and just say that this is the average number of dollars it costs for a town meeting. This is how much it costs for this, just because they can't give it to me. I just need the data and so I'm working on that.
Maybe they should be added to your budget calendar and they can come here and
Present.
explain it and present it themselves.
But-
That's what they need
I've
going
asked them
forward.
when we ask for more money to explain it in person, that,
The problem still falls on controls. That's where it comes down to. Where's the controls? I mean, we can give them money, but where's the controls of it? How do we, if you're not getting responses, how are we able to utilize control over these funds?
well, we've got the purchase order controls, but they don't tend to use purchase orders. We've talked about that with them. We've done them for them. We
This
just,
is,
part of their budget that had an intra-fund transfer was because they weren't doing purchase orders last year. When they went to order something this year, the vendor said, "You haven't paid us from March." Well, finance doesn't know that because we don't have a purchase order that says that they even were ordering something. So we need to impress upon them that they have to follow the budget controls. And I'm apparently not that scary.
All right, let's move on, because I don't even want to talk about that anymore.
And
Let's
then
please
the-
move on.
Communication tower lease that was brought up at a selectmen's meeting, that there's a rent for the tower of $3,000 a month. And at last, we knew it was gonna be free, but, so it's not in the budget. We don't know when it's gonna start. It starts after we put our equipment on the tower, or 60 days after we sign the lease, whichever comes first, and I just don't know
So-
when.
I think you
Go
brought
ahead.
that up
So I
last
have
meeting.
I have a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
So we hired this consultant and he was supposed to walk us through all this stuff. How does something like that happen? Right? I mean, why do we hire
I
a
think that's
consultant?
a good question for the first select.
No, I
woman.
agreed.
And
It's
have
not-
her,
yeah.
have her discuss what happened from 0 to 3,000 a month and the timeline and details of what happened. Because I'm sure there's a story there, how we went from 0 to 3,000.
Yeah.
So we need a detailed report on how do we get to
Yeah.
that, because it's
And-
not in the
It's
budget.
not as fun.
Right, and I don't know if it's gonna happen this year, that's why it's got the question
Got it.
marks, it depends on when it's signed. Probably Andy Ellis should be at that meeting too, because he's got a good
Yeah.
handle on it, but,
Well, we
but,
should have the police chief and Chief Grambling.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we need to know how it went from a $0 understanding to a $3,000 a month after we approved all this, because something happened in there that we should understand.
We'll see her all March.
so those are the things that we're watching, as far as we're not asking for transfers at this time, but it probably will be. And
What's
then the.
the order of, I mean, are we talking the total of that list of the requests gonna be 100 grand, 500 grand that we're
The
already
cells-
over?
The cell tower, if they sign it, this month, we're talking 18,000. The registrars, I think,
Less than 100.
we're talking, less than 10,000. Sporadic wages,
20,000.
that,
If you burn 5,000 in
maybe
a quarter,
10,000.
if you burn 5,000 in a quarter, it's 15,000 more dollars. I mean, that's math.
It's not gonna be burned till about, December
Okay.
2nd.
All right.
And then the legal
So-
fees
Is
is
unknown.
unknown.
Which is open
That's
checkbook.
unknown.
Right, okay,
That's that
Thank
We
you.
still don't know what that incident cost us in total,
right,
so that's an unknown checkbook too.
And
okay.
we also don't know about that unique labor one that you said is 42% of the budget. So if that's that's an anomaly that we're not even used to seeing, that's happening.
And who knows, there may be another legal incident out there that we don't even know
We're
about.
not even accounting for
sitting on
anything
the
going
desk
down the
of
road.
First selectwoman.
We're only counting what's happening. We're not even counting like the rest of the months of the budget that are left.
exactly, okay,
Wow, okay.
thank you.
The final unknown is the Center Elementary School that gets its own page. That, we had 67,499 in the budget. That, and we, right now, we've got either an encumbrance or we've spent 25,000, and we've got another 25,000 that we know we have to spend. The big things, water, we had 3,000 in the budget. That, and that was monitoring the water and it was decided to drain the water, drain the water
Because it'll
and
freeze, you gotta drain the water.
Oh, like to winterize it.
to
It's a
winterize
It's
it.
a total winterize,
I
yes.
got it.
'Cause-
Drain the water in the heating system.
'cause you have no oil to heat.
Yeah.
That is going out to bid, so we think that it's gonna be more than the 20,000 or more. And the bid opening is on the 25th. We'd have to shut down the sprinkler system. That'll be about 5,000. Again, these are best estimates right now. There's a oil tank there that has to be removed.
Yeah.
And that is I think we already have a quote on that, $16,100.
But that would be a quote without remediation. if the
Without
tank leaked.
remediation, yes. And then, we only have one electricity bill in that, just the timing of it, because the school had it for the first 2 months, so we've only had 1 month. We were thinking 5,000 for electricity, that first bill was 2,500. So we don't know if that's, was there a read, were they just estimating? It is down 64%, but, were there some days that crossed over? So that is a concern is 5,000 enough?
What kind of electricity would we have ongoing?
Yeah.
I mean, it
Right
really-
now, the electricity is for the well, I think that there's lights in there, if someone goes in, they're all on timers, so if someone goes in, the lights go on. And maybe some security lighting outside, there's not much.
I have a question, I'm so sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Is there a reason why we have to winterize?
Yeah.
I mean, cause I'm just,
Well, no, I
is-
think,
that's-
I think what happened is,
I wanna
and
get
if
off
I,
track.
so I understand it, and I
okay,
apologize.
no, good.
Is we found out that the oil tank was out of date by 5 years by regulation, so we had to take the oil tank out. So that gave us no reservoirs to be able to heat the building.
Got it.
And it was decided before a decision was made not to put it back in if it wasn't gonna be used. So it wasn't, we did this, it was, we got put into this position because of out-of-date regulations,
Okay.
EPA regulations with the oil tank underground. So we have to remove it, we have to get rid of the stuff, and that would mean now we don't have the capability to heat the building. If we don't have the capability to heat the building, we can't have water in any of the systems.
100%.
So this was all done. But I think the bigger point of this is, this was a point of contention at the budget discussions back in March. We discussed about, we had $100,000 put in the budget, we reduced it down to 80 because we didn't really have an idea of what was gonna be done. And now it's September and we don't have a center school plan. And I even think that was brought up recently about where is the center school plan? I think even at the debate it was brought up, if I remember properly, and I could be wrong, that we 22 months into office, where's the center school plan? We don't have one. We don't have a plan. We're spending money. We don't know whether we're shutting this building down. I know the NBC is working on it, but we really still don't have a plan that we can't manage to. Budget season's coming up again. I don't want to have this board sit through March, sitting there guessing what we're gonna do, how much money's gonna be needed without a plan. I would like to have a plan for next meeting.
I mean, ultimately, there was a committee that was formed that looked at what we would do Center School for, and that was a bipartisan group of community members and stakeholders that came to a conclusion, but then I think they needed the numbers behind everything, and that got stymied. I mean, that all was kind of thrown to the side, so maybe that gets brought back up again, I mean.
We still don't have a plan.
No, we don't.
We don't know what we're facing, and we're already September now, or October. We're heading into budget season, and we're gonna have to do something, and we don't have a plan. And again, if it wasn't brought up as such a point of where's the plans, I mean, where is the plans? It's pretty simple. So I would like to have it presented to us next meeting. What is the plan? What is the course of action? What is the timeline, so we're prepared for the budget season going forward?
Clearly the best guess would be.
All right, thanks, Marcia.
All right, and then, the first columns are the actual, and the one in gray is just the budget, so you have an idea of what we talked about, at budget season.
And again, this is all needed. I mean, we don't have a choice on this. This
No.
is needed.
No,
I
you're
agree,
right.
this is not a misspend, but we still don't have that plan.
And I met with Ralph this morning. As of this morning, this is everything he knows about it.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Marcia.
Capital non-recurring for the current fiscal year, we're requesting some transfers. These were approved by the Board of Selectmen. The police scheduling program, they went with a less expensive option, so they're giving money back. The labor for the pump and motor at Town Hall, they're just closing that out, there's $1,500. The six-wheel dump truck, there was a higher cost, if you remember, you had everyone take contingencies out,
Yeah,
so it's $8,000 more.
yeah.
We got the baseball, softball drainage out of the budget because it was so high. We did that at an earlier meeting, but the engineered plans to come up with that, there was a little bit excess in that. The flatbed truck replacement, just closing that out. The trail light trailer, this is worst case scenario. At the time I had to get it to the selectmen. They were still waiting for the quotes on that, and seeing what they could get for a trade-in, so worst case is $13,000. The Toro big volume mower is $13,000, just again, higher costs. And the Still River Greenway to the New Milford line, $64,000. We had talked about that before. It was Westcog that, we didn't get the grant that we put that in there for, and Westcog is gonna be handling it in the future, so that's freed up. So in total, the net between the two would be 58,000 that would fall to fund balance. That,
And whoa, don't move that, 'cause any questions? So we can make a motion on this right now.
you could,
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the first quarter transfers of the capital non-reoccurring fund as approved by the Board of Selectmen per the Finance Director's report.
A second?
Do you have any discussion on this?
No, that's well presented, all rational.
No more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
the ARPA fund, we had held off for a few months waiting for the attorney on what we can do, and we can only reduce it, so we are only reducing it. The town building accessibility, the cost came in much higher. Ralph thought there was better uses for that money. He had asked for more money for this year's budget and it didn't get passed, so with everything going on, he was worried that he wouldn't be able to manage that and all his new responsibilities at CES could be done for December 31st of 2024, so he'd like to give that back. Social Services Resource Center, they found a lower cost option, so there should be $9,000 left. And Museum and Historical Society, they got a really good deal and even a rebate, so they had $15,000 left. So that's $56,000 that would go back to fund balance.
And in order to use it, you said it must go to a town.
It needs to go to a town meeting. There were two things that we had talked about originally that we might need more money for, the pluses to that. $1,500 for the EMS study, and we'll just have to find it from someplace else and transfer it. And then the high school library AC or air handling unit, they had budgeted at 90, they might need 85 or 90 more based on what it said. They want to rework the project. There were some things that they thought they could cut out, and they'll bring that back during next year's budget process. But I just wanted to point out where those went. That one is still pending
And this
one-
was approved also by the Board of Selectmen?
the transfers at the top were approved, yes.
So then I'll make a motion that we approve the first quarter transfer request for the ARPA fund that was previously approved by the Board of Selectmen in accordance with the Finance Director's report. Do I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion on this? I think it was pretty well explained. Dan?
Yep.
Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion
The
passes.
current year bonded capital fund, there's no transfers that are being requested at this time. Although there's some from last year that we need to talk about when you get to the transfer section.
What do we gotta talk about?
We have some 2023 transfers.
You wanna put them up?
I can.
It's a new business, so I don't know. if you-
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
All right,
Oh,
never mind,
okay.
can't go there.
Yeah,
My bad.
exactly. Yeah.
No,
Okay,
you're right.
that's
I
fine.
apologize.
Any questions on any of that?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Audit, Dan?
No,
Perfect.
covered.
No.
There's no old business, run a new business. Eileen, you gonna take over?
Yeah. Marcia, do you mind just, there's only 4 slides I put together for the bylaws revisions, and everybody should have a copy of the revised bylaws in their packet.
And it was also posted on
It was
the-
also posted with the minutes from last month's meeting,
Perfect.
so hopefully anybody had a chance to review it in the community and didn't get any feedback. So just wanted to highlight the major changes, so if you want to, all the changes are now, there always was a bylaw history, it's a little more organized now, so there's a bylaw history after the articles and before the exhibits that give the details of what was done. The other thing I wanted to point out is that this hasn't been modified since 2012 and 2013, so it's been a long time the way it was, so I think 10 years is a long time for change. So the major changes
So
are.
I will
yeah.
stop it there in a minute, and I'll give fairness to the first select woman who did say that our bylaws are outdated, and she did push us to
Yep.
get these done. So in that aspect, it hadn't been done since 2012, and this was a very good exercise.
Yeah.
So,
It was
thank you.
definitely time to do it. So the major changes, there was some formatting cleanup, so it looked a little bit nicer, and I added a table of contents for navigation. And so then the big changes are in Article 6, Section 1. It was just reworded, it doesn't change the intent, but the wording was a little bit awkward, so now we're saying that nominations shall be made by the members of the Board of Finance, and after those nominations are complete, each member will vote for one nominee. It didn't change the intention, it just cleaned up the wording. And then the same with, in the event that the board is unable to elect the chairman, it refers to the state statute, or the chart, the state statute chapter that allows the Board of Selectmen to choose officers from the Board of Finance's membership. Additionally, we've replaced more awkward wording about the officers of the Board of Finance serving until a newly elected board votes, that unless removed from such office. So again, it doesn't change, it's a bit of text change, but it doesn't change the intent at all. I think the biggest one was Section 5 was removed to default to the town charter. Section 5 is, Article 6, Section 5 is the piece about the term for the officers. And that's something that none of the other commissions in town have, and it's not mentioned in the charter, so there wasn't a need to keep that in ours. Article 12, Section 4 removed the correspondence being attached to the minutes. It hasn't been done historically. When we look back in the record, we also have had conversation that for freedom of information, it's available upon request, so we removed that. Next slide. There was another section about in Article 20 about employees, and this had been a point of contention apparently in Mr. Dunn's tenure, and the town charter is the overarching document, and so this kind of conflicted with it, so we took this out. We don't really have any say in the hiring or firing of employees, and so we don't want that, we don't think we should have that responsibility, and the charter doesn't give it to us anyways. So that got removed. Section 22 removed that the chair is responsible for ensuring timely and accurate information. We don't have a community newspaper, so we want to make sure that the chair can designate somebody to communicate information, but we don't actually have an official channel in which to communicate that, so I want to clarify. Exhibit A, we just added that before the end of the previous fiscal year that the Board of Finance will request any, it goes on to say that it will request any format for the annual budget. So that's something that can be discussed, but we just want to make sure that nobody's requesting it after that budget process has started, because that's not fair to everybody contributing to it. And then we also took out the line item detail for the past 5 years. We've found that we don't use that far back. There's too much that changes in the environment. So we did add that it could be for the last 3 years or more upon request, but we want actual and not budgeted, so that we're looking at numbers that are real to what we're asking for the following years. And then minor changes, just a lot of grammatical errors throughout the document. There were some sections that the numbering wasn't right from previous revisions. There were a couple of duplicate numbers, and then when we took sections out, we had to renumber them. But again, that's all in detail in the bylaw history, so if you want to see that. We also updated terminology, so current practice is to use financial statements and not books and accounts, so there were things like that that got updated within the document. We also changed the, so in Article 6, it mentions the distribution of materials prior to the meeting going out at least 1 week, but we often don't get the information within that time frame because of the timing of the preceding meetings that we need. And then Article 12, Section 1 added the report of the Board of Education to the order of business. And then lastly, it also mentioned that the chair would communicate any decisions for appropriations to the department that was asking, but in practice it's usually the first selectman of the controller, so it's just added that the chair can delegate that task to the first selectman of the controller. Are there, I don't know if anybody's had a chance.
I think we've all read it,
We've
and
all
I
read
think
it
we've
so
all
many
gone
times.
through it. I think that we've hashed out a few at the various meetings to get it right to this point.
Yeah.
So, Dan, any comments?
I think it reads wonderfully, so
Yeah.
much better than we started, than when.
Oh my gosh, you had a lot of inspiration.
And I think that thank you for doing the work and cleaning it up and finding out all the statute stuff. I think it's great. I don't have any substantive comments. I do have one that, I don't know what, but on page 10 it says revised September 20th, 2023. That's not true.
Oh, that was when I had it in
exactly.
the last meeting, so
Exactly.
I will update that.
Yeah.
And I was gonna update the footnote anyway,
Yeah.
so that would align.
Okay, but other than that, thank you.
Perfect. Since it's so important, we're gonna go around the table. Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it cleans things up. It doesn't really change anything substantially, but it just cleans things up and makes a lot more sense. So it was a good exercise for sure.
Yep.
Brianna?
Looks so much better than it did before. And like you said, it was just changing wording and, and I'm happy with everything that is there.
Mary?
Yeah, it's great. It's more readable, tightened everything up, and it's a good excuse for us to go back and really have a chance to read everything.
Eileen?
I don't think I'm
I figured I'd give you the opportunity anyway. I'll make a comment. I think y'all did a great job. I know that it wasn't just reading and changing words. It was a lot of work and thought that went into it. There was also a lot of time to interpret what was there and to maintain the spirit of the document while interpreting it. I think a lot of work went into it, and I appreciated all of it. And if we're ending discussions
Actually, I
on...
just want to make one comment. I wanted to thank Marcia provided both the Word version that I was able to work off of and the calendar tick list, so that actually cleaned up the Exhibit B tremendously because it's more, again, in practice with how we do things, but it's much more appropriate to the process that we followed now, not 10 years ago.
It'll definitely help to remember.
Yes,
Thank you so
It's a
much.
good part.
Speaking of new members, and while we're on the bylaws, could you put together the book for the new members? You did that for Ryan, I think.
I just think what
You
was
had
sent
it?
to me,
Alright.
but I can
I
find
can
it.
work on that.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
I can find
Appreciate
it
it.
from
Yeah.
when I started.
I don't have mine, so
I don't either.
I
It
appreciate
was,
that.
the one I got was so outdated to begin with. I
Yeah.
think
We should
it's-
have 2 books ready,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so just to
absolutely.
prepare.
I
So
can work
then-
with you on that and printing stuff out.
Since we're all in agreement, I'll make a motion that we pass the minutes as revised per today's date. The one change to be made is we'll make the date change and the footnote change, but other than that,
Revision history.
the revision history, so I'll make a
second.
motion we approve.
I'll
Dan
second.
second it. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you for all your hard work. All right, we're on to transfers now.
So if you look in your package, the top thing after the motions is the transfers. It's got a purple heading on it. It's 2023 revenue. It's the second thing in your package because they didn't do expenses. Oh wait,
This thing.
oh, 2023, they did approve this one. I gotta do this one. And highlight
That's
that
this
one.
document.
Let's do expenses first, sorry. It's got a yellow and it's 2023. We're looking for final transfers, that we've been doing transfers, this is for last fiscal year, we've been doing transfers all through the year. And the final ones that we need, a registrar's office, there's 2 places where they needed more money. We had a second referendum that threw them over. The police, we're gonna take the money from there. They had extra money in their union wages because they had a lot of vacancies. We're gonna put $99 to hazardous waste removal. And then the last one is a little unusual, $25,000 to the capital non-recurring fund. And if you remember last year, we had that reopening grant, $500,000 from FEMA. We originally were gonna put that money into capital non-recurring. And then during the budget deliberations, we moved all the money around and how we were gonna spend things. And that money ended up back in the general fund. However, and then we used it for excess revenue we used for our capital projects. However, I never took out the revenue that we had. We had 25,000 being transferred from CNR from that money into revenue to cover, I think it was gonna be used for utility costs that, it was something we had done right in the beginning. So I don't want this year's budget to be 25,000 short, so I wanna take 25,000, move it to capital non-recurring, and then July 1st, we move it back.
Was this approved by the Board of Selectmen?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from Marcia on this? It's pretty straightforward. I think we knew some of this anyway.
Don't you need this for the audit work?
I
Is this-
do.
So is this, was what you prepared in anticipation of this?
Yes.
So you're, okay, so.
It's already in it was already in those numbers that you saw there.
Okay.
I didn't put a separate column because there's 15 pages of expenditures. So the other ones I put a separate column in on the capital. This one I didn't put a separate column in. Instead, I gave you this report instead. So it's already in there.
Presumptive close.
Yeah, and we actually have already posted it so that they could review it and not slow them down.
Go ahead, speak your piece.
That's
You gotta
fine.
speak it.
That's fine, there's nothing controversial. If it were controversial, I'm sure you would have
I
come to
don't,
us ahead of time before you,
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
see anything controversial here.
I agree,
All right.
I'm fine.
So then I'll make a motion to approve the interdepartment transfers for year-end 2023 as noted on the budget versus actual expenditure report. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Perfect. Any more discussion on this? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
On the revenue report, 2023, year end, June of 2023, there's no state statute that requires you to transfer revenue. I like to do it because I think it kind of gives a better story for the three of us that read the financial statements. That, so for example, if we got an extra $1 million, windfall of a grant, and it went through the general fund, you wouldn't want the budget to say, oh, we have a $1 million additional appropriation. You want the full story there that we also got $1 million of revenue. So I like, and we've done it before, I like the transfers in the revenue as well when they're big things. And so there's two things I wanted to transfer. Just the police revenues, that they're dividing it into three categories. They were taking the one category and then manually doing it. Well, let's make the munis work for you, that if you want it in three categories, let's put it into three categories. So we had been doing that during the year on all your reporting. I just want to approve the transfer of the revenue to go with it, the budget to go with it. And again, you've had it all year as a proposed transfer, but we just never approved it yet. And then the other one is we had miscellaneous revenue. We had that $200,000 of revenue that we knew would come from somewhere, we just weren't sure where. I wanted to take that out of miscellaneous revenue and put it up into interest income, because that's really where it came from. So I'd like to to have a motion to approve the revenue transfers for the year end 2023 as noted in the budget versus actual revenue report.
That'll help tremendously when we look at actuals for the next budget season. That's particularly interesting. That's
Again, this was approved by the Board of Selectmen?
Yes, it was.
Are all of these approved by the Board of Selectmen?
Yes,
Just
they
so-
were. They wouldn't come to you if they weren't.
I'm just want to make sure, that's all. All right, then I'll make the motion, we can discuss it if we need to discuss it. I'll make a motion to approve the revenue transfers from year-end 2023 as noted on the budget versus actual revenue report.
A second.
Anybody have any questions on this? I think it was pretty straightforward. All right, hearing no more discussion, all in favor? Aye.
The next one is a two-part one that a few years ago that we need more money in Streetscape Phase 2, and we need more money in the boys' locker room. We talked about this last month, that so we want to do two things. We want to and we don't have money in the specific bond thing, so we can't do an inter-bond transfer to, because we've got to keep it in the same bond year. So before we can add to their budgets, we've got to put the money in there, because if you remember, Steve talks about the $3 million when he started that we were short, and that was because things were approved, but there was no funding to cover it. So we want to do a transfer from capital non-recurring of $51,230 to transfer into the bonded capital fund. And then we want to use that money to increase the budgets for these two projects. We had talked about it last month. I had done a typo and picked up the average instead of the total, and you wanted it cleaned up. The Board of Selectmen cleaned it up, and so now both the motions are coming to you.
And this is the end of the boys' locker room, correct? This is the,
I believe the boys' locker room is nearly completed. I think after this, there is, I give them a report every month. They had a meeting last night. I believe there's 17,000 extra. There's no pending, after any pending purchase orders. So to the best of my knowledge, this is the end of it.
any more discussion on this?
I have a request, not for today, but for maybe the next month or two on the streetscape projects. I've been on this board for 6 years. I'm so lost on what phase is what's been approved, what's been spent, what's been changed. Is there a way that we can have on one page, phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, here's what the scope was, here's the way it was approved to be financed, here's how it's currently being financed, Grand Town approved, Grand Town spent, and then note something like that?
Percentages?
Percentages, dollars, something, because
It's all
Very
hodgepodge.
confusing.
It's been in a lot of,
It's-
we've seen we've seen it,
Yeah,
but you're right, it's
but
not consolidated.
It's not consolidated, and it's, you know, it's Deal Creek to the point where, you know, it just, that would be very helpful
We
for me.
only
I
see
don't know.
it when it's like coming and
Yeah.
then you just don't remember.
And now
one,
the
two, three,
Streetscape
four,
7.
five.
Yeah, and I don't even.
That we don't even know about.
Right, so that would be very helpful.
Um,
Not specifically related to this particular request, but, no. Actually, I'll stop talking.
So this is my cheat sheet on it, that, it's a little too big there. That phase 1 was before my time, but I think I have the numbers I could pull for it. Phase 2 was approved July of 17, it was bonded, then there was an additional TAP grant, and so there was a TAP revenue, bonded, and additional TAP revenue. Phase 3, lot SIP revenue, and then the bond, our portion was bonded. That was approved December 18th, and it was bonded.
So wait a minute, where's our expenditure on there? Where's the?
It's the bonded, it's the bonded.
Ours is the bonded, so,
It's usually
Wait, I'm sorry, oh, right there, I'm sorry.
The not lots of parts.
Yeah.
yeah. And then phase 4 is lot SIP revenue, expenditures, and then our part is the bonded revenue and expenditures. Phase 4, this is what we've spent to date, and that was approved February of 21. The bonds have not been issued just because we aren't really doing a lot of it until next summer. And then phase 5 is the lot SIP, and then there's local. It wasn't bonded. It wasn't intended to be bonded. We transferred some money in there. I just want them all in one page. That I understand your pain. And that was approved July of 2020 by the Board of Finance because of the special COVID rules. But I can get, and then there was phase 6 that we only spent like $600 on it. Oops, I've said something wrong because Greg is texting me. Oh, he's happy to give a streetscape update.
I knew he would, I had a feeling, thank you.
But I can't give you the scope, but between Greg and I can pull all the finances together for all 6 phases and the proposed 7th phase, just like this, and he can help with the,
That's perfect.
This is great, I personally appreciate it.
We have a proposed 7, which we just heard about through the
Right.
Board of Selectmen's meeting. Is there a proposed 8? Is there a proposed 9? I mean, where, Greg can
Hi,
come.
Greg.
Don't Greg, don't blow up the phone. You can have your time.
Yeah, we
at the
can-
next meeting or the December meeting or whatever, to look at this as a bigger, I think you're right. I mean, we've approved pieces and
Right.
and it's been well presented.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's nothing
Always
that
been
hasn't
well
been
presented.
transparent, but I think the big picture, one page, and where we're going.
Yep.
Yeah, we can get that to you for the next, meeting.
Thanks, Greg.
Perfect. So then, no other questions on these two motions, right? So I'll make a motion, the first motion, that we transfer of cash from the cash capital to bonded capital fund in the amount of $51,230 as per approved by the Board of Selectmen. Do I have a second?
A second.
Any discussions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And the second part of this, we all understand the first part was to get it to one account so we can utilize it. So then I'll make a motion to approve the additional appropriations to these projects' budgets funded by a transfer from the capital non-reoccurring fund as approved by the Board of Selectmen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussions on this? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
How many more of these you got for us,
That's
Marcia?
it.
That's
Yeah,
it.
I
I
got
got through them all.
2024
Yeah,
and then approved.
Yeah, 2024 wasn't approved, so.
Wow.
we're all set.
Thanks, Marcia.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alright, we did that. There's no other items to come to the board. Do we have any public comment? Alright. Hearing none, let's enter into some closing remarks. I'd like to clarify a few points that have been put out there that are in reference to the Board of Finance. We have a couple of these, and then we'll finish with one at the end. But I'd like to walk through. There was something that was said, and it's been brought up to us numerous times, that Steve Dunn gave himself a pay raise, and that Steve Dunn, the Board of Finance gave Steve Dunn personally a huge pay raise. So I'd like to show the transparency of this board, and Marcia, if you could pull up the budget process here from when we did this in 2019. And I'd also like to talk about the process. Number one, the first selectman can't give himself a pay raise, but what is the standard operating procedure is they propose a pay raise in their first selectman's budget or first selectwoman's budget to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen then go through the process, and then the Board of Finance finalizes the process. So let's look what Steve Dunn put in for this year, for the year when he got his pay raise. He put in for how much of a percent, Marcia?
Well.
It's the same as everybody.
It's the same as everyone, it's, I think it was 2.5, but it
Perfect.
included an accrual adjustment.
That's fine. It was a standard pay raise for everybody in the town hall building. So what this Board of Finance did, that was his proposal. What this Board of Finance did is they realized that the first selectman's job really takes a lot of hours. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of hard work. So we wanted to reward and get higher quality candidates as well for the selectman position. So we discussed the pay raise, but we didn't give this pay raise to Steve Dunn. We gave this pay raise, and I was not chairman at the time. I was on the board, but not chairman. But we gave this pay raise to the position. This pay raise did not go into effect until 1/1 of 2020. So in our notes, also on the page that's on the thing, go to our notes where it says that right there you can see the new pay was $110,000 and it was effective as of 1/1/2020. We did this because it could have been given to Steve Dunn or Mel Butow. Whoever won the race was given this pay raise. The Board of Finance, like I said, took into consideration the fact that this is a tough job. It is a tough job to be first selectman. And it was unanimously voted on to increase the pay. And I think Dan had said earlier today when we were in discussion that this was pretty much in line with a lot of the area towns as well. We brought it up, we were at lower, and we brought it up to where we thought was reasonable at the time. So going through that, it's been very transparent. The budget is on it's on the website how we did it, and Steve put in for the minimal amount that everyone in the town hall did. So for someone to say Steve Dunn gave himself a pay raise, or the Board of Finance gave Steve Dunn personally a huge pay raise, is misinformation. This was given to the position of the first selectman. And again, if Mel Butow had won the election, Mel Butow would have got the pay raise. The chair got the pay raise. The office got the pay raise. So now, to put more like balance on this, let's go to our current budget. So if we go to our current budget, if you look, the first select woman put herself in for the same pay raise as well. So that was not us, the Board of Finance. The first select woman put in her pay raise as well, in line with everybody else in the town. But what Steve did was common practice, and what Tara did was common practice. So this misinformation that Steve gave himself a pay raise, you could say the same for our first select woman. In this case, she gave herself a 2.5% pay raise, which is acceptable. It still has to go through the Board of Finance. It has to go through the Board of Selectmen. So to say someone gave themselves a pay raise, our system doesn't allow that to happen. They propose a pay raise. It then goes to the Board of Selectmen who review these pay raises. The Board of Selectmen then approve it and propose that to the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance has the final say. So
And then
The voters.
then the voters then vote on the budget itself. So I just wanted to clarify this that's going around, that this is what happened. It's transparent, it's on the web page, it's in the budgets, it's in the notes. You can watch the videos, I believe, too, to go back through to see how we deliberated. So I would like to dispel that misinformation that's being broadcasted. Now, to go on to the next bit of what I call scare and nervousness to the town, and people called me, it was brought up that defunding the police at the debate. Now, our government, form of government doesn't allow this to happen. One person cannot defund the police. Again, we walked you through the budget process. First selectman proposes a budget, one person, it goes through the Board of Select, then they have to approve these numbers, and then it goes through the Board of Finance. And the Board of Finance then can change the numbers. So if a first selectman were to choose to take $500,000 out of the police budget, the Board of Finance then as a group has the chance to put that money back in. So if there was any defunding or lack of funding to the police, it would be a group effort. It would have to go through 3 processes. Now that doesn't mean it's right, it's wrong, or however it wants to go, but to say we're defunding the police, I've been on this Board of Finance a long time, and this Board of Finance has always supported the police in everything that they've done. We've maybe cut their budget a little bit in areas, but the support is there. So I don't want people getting nervous if certain people get elected that the police are going to be defunded. I think that this Board of Finance still will have 4 members left on it, and I think we've done a good job over the past few years in funding all the town's needs. So I got a phone call that was like, we're defunding the police, oh my God, if Steve gets in, it's like, the process doesn't allow that, and we're not about to not fund our priorities. Then there was another.
Never asked about the police.
Now, also to continue on that, we as a group started the process to support the police and the fire with the communication towers as of February of 2021. That was when they first put in their request for the report funding of we needed a tower, we needed to get all of this done. So, and then they put in their capital request in October of 2021. So this project we've been working on now for many years prior to the current administration. So this wasn't the current administration that put this through. This was done prior. We all realize as a group that this is a real major concern to our town. It's critical to our needs. This Board of Finance has approved it along the way. But this process did start back in February of 2021. So I want the people out there to realize that the Board of Finance understands the critical needs, and we've been involved in this, and we've been supporting these needs prior to this administration coming into the office. So the misinformation's out there that this was done by this current office. We knew the needs. We addressed the needs, and we've been continually addressing the needs. So I'd like to dispel all this misinformation that's out there. And just set the records with facts. These are facts. You saw them. This isn't words. This isn't anything other than facts. So I'd like to get it back to facts. We sat through, and there's a lot of stuff going around now where accusations, but there's no facts. I just gave you facts. So I'd like to make sure that this is on record, that there's a lot of misinformation, and please believe the facts before you believe the rhetoric. With that note, I'm gonna move on to happier times.
Well, not so much, but.
Well, it's not, I apologize, I should reword that, sad times. But it's Ryan's last meeting with us, and I can't thank him enough from my point of view, for all his support, for everything that he's brought to us, the model he built, which we're gonna use for future capital projects. We have a lot coming up, and it's gonna be a heck of a tool. And we're gonna call on you to help us if you're available to us. We can't thank you enough for your time. We know you do a lot outside of, work and with the kids and with soccer, and you're an asset to the town. You become a good friend and a great partner in this operation, and I would like to personally thank you, and you have my greatest respect. And I don't give that very often, so you have it. My greatest respect. I'll let Dan say a few words.
Yeah, I echo everything. I mean, I've been pleasure to work with you. The perspective that you brought, you taught me some stuff. Obviously, always prepared, open-minded, constructive, all the things you look for in a board member. It's been a pleasure, and thank you very much.
Brianna, don't cry.
I'm not gonna cry. I was holding it together. I hate stuff like this. No, I mean, being with you on the capital committee and just your ability to work so well with everybody, and you're always coming, you're always thinking, and I always look at you, I always look at what both of you are doing when your minds are working, and I'm like, oh, something's good. So, but it's been an absolute pleasure, and I never thought when I started on the Board of Finance that I would have gotten so many wonderful friendships out of that. So.
Thank you. Mary?
It has been great getting to work with you, getting to know you a bit, and your diligence is always something to look up to.
Thank you.
Any?
Definitely appreciate your being on the board, and especially jumping in, you volunteered to do this, and that's a huge commitment, as you know, and your insight's always been helpful, and your open-mindedness and communication, so we're gonna miss having you on the board, but we thank you for the time that you've put to it. So.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to serve the town. That's always been my kind of, the reason why I was interested was actually serving the town. And, when you work in local government like this, you realize you're not so far apart from whether it's a Republican, a Democrat. We work all together, and we all want what's best for the town, and I think that's important. And I think, part of Glenn's comments and some other things, we gotta get back to that. We gotta get back to just doing what's best for the town. That's it.
Thank you. Marcia, you want to add? You're part of our family.
I just wanted to add that I always describe you as, he doesn't say much, but when he does say something, it's important and it's spot on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very true.
We're going to miss you. So
You.
thank
You
you.
guys too.
All right. On that note, you want to make the last motion?
Yes.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
There you go.
Perfect. All those in favor?